right, guys. Welcome to the third episode of Tea Time. My name is Benten. I'm your host. And we have with us Flow Ninja. They're a Webflow design and development agency based in Serbia. And fun fact, Kika and I actually competed in a competition with the Reloom Design League Rumble. She totally schooled me, but we are here. We're still friends. It's good. And we wanted to bring them on and chat all things web design, development, Webflow. And they're doing a lot of exciting stuff. They got some new projects that they're going to share. And so it'll be casual Q&A. We're going to chat design processes, working with clients, managing content, getting content from clients, all that fun stuff. So yeah, we'll kick it off with Kika, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get to Jura.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So as Benten mentioned, my name is Kika, and I'm the head of design at Flow Ninja agency. I've been with Flow Ninja for 3 years, so basically since the beginning. And currently my job is mostly making the processes better and leading a team of 4 designers and collaborating with the developers. So yeah, I'll hand it off to Jura to introduce himself.
Hey guys, so my name is actually Andrea, but you can call me Jura. I mean, everybody does. So yeah, and I've been with Flow Ninja for a year and a half right now, doing Webflow and generally Webflow development. Currently, I'm a team lead of 3 developers, and I lead the retainer team in our company. And it's been pretty fun so far, and I'm super hyped for everything that's about to come for us. So nice to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Alex, and then Yankee.
Yeah, my name is Alex. I'm a senior web designer with Unfold. Been there about a year and a half now, and I get to work pretty closely with both Benten and Yankee on a daily basis and bust out some fun websites. So.
Kika and Drew, so glad you guys are here. I'm Michael, as you heard Ben, he called me Yankee. That's my last name, like donkey. And yeah, I do the Webflow for the Unfold web design team. So I get the chance to work with Benten and Alex, and then also our creative director, Jonathan Eicher, who is not on this call right now, but that's our little web team here at Unfold. And let's see, I'm from Indianapolis, and something weird about me is that I like eat pretty much all pastries in a bowl of milk. So like if I get cake or a muffin, I just put it in a bowl and I pour milk over it. And that's a weird thing about me. So now everybody knows that.
It is very weird.
We've seen it. Yeah.
They got to see it last year in person, and I think I lost a couple friends in Unfold.
Damn. I mean, it sounds pretty tasty, honestly.
I'm not gonna lie.
We gotta give it a shot.
It's like Tres de Leche's cake, but every time,
Yeah.
like for everything you eat.
For everything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I challenge you guys to just try it next time you're at a birthday party. Just break out a bowl of milk and just let people kind of stare at you.
I mean, not into very wet foods or things that shouldn't be wet. So.
Don't even get us into wet pizza. It's a different story. Yeah, we don't want to go down that road.
Yeah. There's gonna definitely be some pissed off Italians right now.
Yeah, but I'm glad you guys are here, and just looking forward to kind of diving into like your guys' processes, what it's like having so many Webflow people on your team. You know, just looking at some of your work, asking you guys questions, and reciprocating it. Yeah, so thanks for joining us on
Yeah, we do have quite a few questions for you too. So
Oh, geez.
this is gonna be a learning curve for all.
Well, yeah, we'll be dumping into like a Figma file later, and we were kind of poking around and just super impressed by what was in there. So we're really excited to hear you all walk through it, because obviously your team's a lot larger. You need to work at scale and have, you know, more robust processes in place. So we're excited to dig into that. But first, do you all want to talk a little bit about Flow Ninja, where you guys are based, what type of projects you do, how long you've been working there, how many people work there, that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Jura can start, and I'll
Yeah.
fill in the details.
Yeah. So, I mean, Flow Ninja is a website development and design company, and we're based in Niš in Serbia. So we're pretty rare, should I say? And I guess we're kind of a new company in a sense. We're not that old. As Kristina mentioned earlier, we're doing like 3 years right now, and we have almost 30 people working full time, and a lot of people that are like kind of freelance, hopping in on projects from time to time. And generally, our goal is to help our clients develop unique and specific web solutions, and to improve their business, and generally help them do better on the internet, I guess. So that's kind of short intro, and maybe Kika has something to add.
Well, yeah, I don't have anything to add. So basically, a team of almost 30 people. I mean, 26 and counting. Really recently, we had some new hires, a new developer, a new PM, and then a new marketing manager. So the team is growing, and it's really exciting, to be honest. And then meeting all of those people and then creating a culture in here. We all are actually in office with some remote options. So that's how we work. We are basically, even Jura and I, we're in the same space right now, but just in different rooms. So you can see by the plans that
I was gonna say same plants. It looks like.
Yeah,
It's a model.
the same team.
Yeah.
And yeah, as he mentioned, we are mostly working now with enterprise clients, helping them grow their business in collaboration with us. The services we provide are web design and Webflow development, and we are planning to expand on providing conversion rate optimization as a service, and that's something in the cooking for next year.
Yeah, and like the most important thing that Kika didn't mention, everybody that works at Flow Ninja is highly competitive at table tennis. So ping pong is a must-have for us. So if you know how to play, you're already hired. That's it.
Is that part of the interview process?
Well,
Yeah,
sorta.
The interview starts at the basement, and we have the table tennis there. And you first play a few rounds with the CEO, and if you beat him, you definitely get a job. If you're good, they think about it.
That's amazing.
I have something to confess. I've never played it, but I'm here before the ping pong. So
Yeah.
So
She's one of
you're
the
kind
OGs.
of grandfather.
Really.
yeah. So guys, can you tell me a little bit more about Unfold generally? Because I know we've met, but I'm also interested in like how many people are at Unfold.
Yeah, Alex, you want to take it?
Yeah, Unfold. I forget how many years we've been around. It's been a while. And it's kind of flowed and morphed over the years. I think we're at like 30 people now, roughly 30 or so. And so we specialize in branding, web design, and product design. And illustration is sort of a floating utility player that we have for all three of those. And we also handle Webflow development, as we've been talking about here. But it's kind of a really quick overview. Feel free to expand upon that. But
I think we're out of Florida. That's where like our home base kind of is, and everybody else is remote throughout a few different countries. Shout out to Jordan, it's over in Wales, and and yeah, I think the only thing maybe I'll add is like illustration. They're kind of like this like magic fairy dust that gets spread around to all of our projects, and like things are cool, but then illustration gets in, and then they're really cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about projects in general. Let's have a little bit of fairy dust in there, but we have some amazing designers in-house that do illustrations from time to time. So shout out to Milan if we're doing shout outs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, one thing I'd say about Unfold is it's super collaborative, and I'm sure you guys are a lot the same way. With Figma especially, it makes it really easy to collaborate with other people and even clients and work together asynchronously. We're all over the country and global. So that's one thing I think that is pretty unique, especially when I first joined, was just the speed and the collaboration that we have, and just the relationships we have with our clients too, which is pretty neat. But enough about Unfold. We would love to hear more about Flow Ninja. What have you guys been up to? I know you have a couple projects that you guys have been working on. We can do that now, or we can do that later. But we'd love to see some of your work and kind of see what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, I mean, if you'll, I don't know if you started the screen share. If not, you can. I'm ready to screen share some of our projects. We've basically, the most recent thing is with the Webflow libraries being up. We made our own Webflow library, component library, and then I'll just...
Oh, dang. You already jumped in. I was going to ask you what you guys thought about the Webflow libraries and a lot of different Webflow comp releases now that the dust is settled, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just switch the... So yeah, obviously made with a lot of love here at Flow Ninja. Actually, two-person team made this. So me and Stefan, our head of development. So yeah, you can check it out on the link and the Webflow libraries page. And it's been really fun, honestly, doing this, because we didn't want to make something that's like very unbranded. So we try to push it as much as a component library can be branded. So we explored a little bit of that, and then I can show you the Figma if someone's interested in how long actually the page is once you put all the components in, and it accidentally almost matches the color of the Figma, because I'm on dark mode. And then
Kika,
yep.
Do you mind maybe, like, I know that a lot of people that that follow Unfold, a lot of them are very Figma like heavy, whereas like, you know, I think people in your camp are very Webflow heavy, you know, because you guys have so many Webflow people, we only have one, but maybe you could explain a little bit just like what that release was from Webflow with the libraries and things, and how it would work and what it would do. So like, what's the utility that you guys are providing back with what you built too?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Within Webflow.
I always...
Because a lot of people don't use Webflow that might be watching too.
Yeah, I mean, Jura as a developer can probably explain better as to what libraries are made for. But basically, the new feature that was announced on the Webflow Conf is that Webflow now, within its marketplace, is launching libraries which you can basically start your project with and then expand upon them. And then, Jura, if you have anything else to add on how they're actually used within Webflow, then that's...
Sure thing. So, I mean, essentially, you explained the core purpose of the libraries and what they actually do. And kind of, it's cool because it was integrated like directly into the designer. So essentially, like when you, for example, right now, when you jump into Webflow and you want to insert like a div block, you just open like a panel and div block drag. So the same thing happens right now, where you can technically drag over a whole layout and like quicken and shorten the time that you actually take to develop some things. So for example, let's say you're building blog sections or blog overview sections on the website, and it's always like a pain to, you know, have a link block, have a blog card, image, thumbnails, and stuff like that. And this kind of snaps the work to be a little bit faster, and then you have like the general construction of the section, and then you can add specific design, elements, animation, hover effects, and stuff like that, and build upon the actual component. So kind of, I mean, depending on library from library, some components are a little bit more crazy, some are a little bit simpler and basic. So depending on your needs, you can find something that works for you and kind of integrate it into your website. So that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the big thing is that it's integrated now into the Webflow designer, to where, you know, you add this to your library, it's there, and you can drag and drop, you know, your guys' navbar or, you know, the library's navbar in there and make things really quick. And I'm guessing what you're going to show us too in Figma is that, you know, all of that's already built in Figma too. So maybe like for my use case, you know, Benten and Alex, they could actually build using this to start to make their side faster. And then we both have the same starting points, which is this library.
Yeah, exactly. I actually did end up using this exact library because it's already built, and I had to make like, it wasn't client work, but we needed like a test project to test our potential new Webflow developers. But I didn't want to it to be within this brand, so I just rebranded it to be very in like Flow Ninja colors, etc. And then I just basically changed, and everything is like already in auto layout. Everything is already there. So I basically changed the fonts globally and the colors, and then I had that done in like less than a day for the whole project, so someone can develop it. And yeah, that's a great use case as well.
So how long did it
How long
take you
did
guys
take
to
to build it?
wow,
Sure.
Ben, we asked the exact same question. That's crazy.
And I didn't
We just
hear
wanna know how
like
long.
oh, okay. This was a really quick process. I can't tell you like right now. I think it took me like maybe 3 days to set up all of these for desktop, and then just to design it for tablet and for mobile. And then I think Stefan, he also developed it really fast because we were on a deadline, sort of. So I think it was probably even for him 3 to 4 days in Webflow. But he's like a magician in Webflow, so
Yeah, he's super fast.
That's awesome. That is so like you guys made this for desktop, tablet, and mobile. Just kind of curious, when you guys work on client projects, do you guys always build out tablet too?
no. Trying to. So what we do is, and then that's getting into the processes of how we basically develop, and I want to hear your guys' experience. We do desktop and mobile, and then tablet we do for homepage, or if there is like a very complex section. But we are trying to improve upon our processes in general, like always. So hopefully we'll make time to start designing the tablet as well for every page. The other idea I had is like, let's just have a component library for each client, and then for that library design tablet as well. But we'll see. So yeah, when there's a need, we design for tablet, and when there is not a need, we try to avoid it to save time, because clients usually just ask in the design phase to see desktop and mobile, sometimes mobile first, so depending on the client. And how about you guys? Like, do you do tablet? Like, is there a must for you guys?
We always start with desktop and mobile. Tablet is kind of depends on the use case. I think just the design. If we need to be more clear on how things break, it also depends on the developers we're working with. So Yankee, a lot of times he's developing with us, so we don't have to be as in depth because we're collaborating more frequently directly with him. We're not working with a client developer who's like that we've handed files off to. But I think this is a great segue because we've been curious because we have one developer, Yankee, on our team, one Webflow developer, and a lot of times we work with client developers, so we package up Figma files and then hand them off. But you have a massive team, a lot of Webflow developers. I'd love to hear more about your process and how you manage so many developers, because you lead several designers in Jira. I know you also lead a couple. I would just love to hear more about your process as an agency, from kind of like initial ideation to launching a live site.
I'll start with the design, I guess.
It's a big question.
Yeah, that's like a very like, what do you do for a living, like 8 hours a day? So yeah, as you can see, our processes are currently they're in Google Docs, very unpopular Google documents. So the process now, I'm trying to sort of visualize it, at least the design part, so it can be like referred to. And I do everything in Figma, so I decided to make the processes in Figma as well. This is work in progress, so this is like a very quick sneak peek into what's gonna be by the end of the year. But yeah, generally the process is like once we land the client, and then we have separate team for the sales part. Once we land the client, if they are sort of not sure what they exactly need, then we do a discovery workshop with them, which is done separately from the design process. So we do the discovery workshop, and the outcome of the workshop basically is an octopus sitemap with all the pages identified and low fidelity wireframes, and then we hand that back to the client so they can gather content if possible. But that's sort of the new process. And then once that's finished, when we get into design, the first thing we do is another call, like another workshop, but it's more on like the visual side. So we prepare 3 mood boards, and depending on like how much they provided initially, the mood boards are pretty straightforward, and they're maybe even similar, but sometimes the brief is not as detailed. So we provide like 3 completely different mood boards, so we can sort of go walk them through those to see what's their initial thoughts on this sort of design or this sort of design. So yeah, that's sort of the first part. And then once we land on a mood board, we go into art direction. And then I saw you guys do the stylescapes. We tried that, but clients sometimes are like, when they see stylescapes, they don't always get what we're trying to achieve with the stylescapes. So what we do is we do art direction basically on a homepage. It can be like with placeholder content, but at least 4 to 5 sections of the homepage. And then we do like 3 to 4 different art directions. And then that's where few designers are involved. So me, designer who's working on the project, and then as per availability, who's like more available at that week, sort of joins the party of exploring the direction we're going to take with the website. That's probably the most fun part of the process, to be honest. So yeah, we make, and I could show you an example, but I didn't put it here, like 3 different art directions, and then we present that to the client, have a little back and forth. What usually happens is that they like the combination of 2. They don't always pick like, whoa, we like this one. So what usually happens is like, we like bits of this one, and then bits of this one, and then bits of this one. So the next step usually is to sort of try and make, if we see the need to combine them, then yeah, we combine them or make the sort of final direction that we're going to take, present that to the client, and then when that's settled in, we go into designing each page from homepage and then or the rest of the pages. So yeah, that's process until that point. And then once everything is designed, I think we'll talk later a little bit about dev handoff, but we can skip that part for now. Juro, now you can talk more about the development process.
Okay, so
Can we ask a few questions about the
Yeah,
design part before
sure.
we jump into the next section? Because
Sure.
I had some things I was curious about. Like, so maybe I misunderstood too, but were you saying that you basically create like different options of a homepage, then you combine that to get to the final homepage with the client, versus like, because the stylescapes was really hard to articulate, or that didn't work for the way you guys do things, instead you do different homepages and then combine those different styles from what they like pick and pull to choose to build one, basically?
It's more of like, maybe combine is not the right word, but per se they sort of pick one, but they like the button of the other one, or the layout of some section, and general color theme and everything. Like we try to push from our side what we think is best for them, of course. And then if they like, we don't want to give them like the variety of stuff, but still a few options. So if it comes to combining like the hero section from one direction, but the rounded button from the third direction, then if they fit together, then we combine them.
And at this point, like, well, I have two questions. One is like, how long does that process take you? Because, you know, putting together stylescapes is a lot quicker, I feel like, than, you know, creating 3 different versions of a homepage, which kind of, I would say, like, I don't want to speak for Benten and Alex, but there's some variation of that would come after stylescapes for them. Like, how long does that process take you of putting that together and presenting that to the client? And, you know, are they involved as you're building out those 3? Are they seeing that? Like, are they seeing that as you're building it the whole time? Or is it more like, give us a week, we're going to build this, we'll show you everything at the end? And then my other question is, when you guys are doing that, like, do you already have content? Do you already know what the copy is going to say? Do you already know if that hero section is going to have like a full sentence for the H1, or it's just going to be like 2 words? So you can design for the somewhat of what the content is. So those are my like 50,000 questions I just threw.
Yeah, I'll try to. You need to remind me like what was the first one?
My first one was just how long does that usually take you?
Oh yeah, the how long part. Yeah, so I think that the mood boarding plus the art direction, let's say from first starting the visual part of that and then deciding on which direction to take, it's within 2 to 3 weeks, depending then on the client and the responsiveness. And then the second question was, how involved are they? So basically we present them, so it's either a meeting or like a very long Loom video, because you know the time zones. So we try to meet as much as needed, but not like too much.
Yeah.
And then what was the other question?
Yeah, you answered those. And then I was asking about oh shoot,
the content.
Oh,
I remember now. So at that point, it depends. Sometimes we already have the content for the homepage, and you asked why it's sort of maybe easier for us to do that rather than stylescapes. Is like at that point, that homepage is sort of like a stylescape in terms of like we would decide on colors and the general mood of the page. So if they already provide the content, then we put in real content. If not, then we sort of propose how it's gonna look, and then even limit them to a number of words.
Character
like we think this heading would be this big because it's most effective in this section, and then we sort of limit them depending whether they come with content or not.
Cool.
And then we don't with mood boarding, like let's say we prepare the mood boards for a few days, present them, and then prepare 3 different art directions for a few days, and then present that, and then make like the final direction also 2 to 3 days, and that sort of adds up to around I don't know 10 to 15 days, so 2 to 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's short or long, to be honest.
I think everything is just, it's all like the answer is always it depends. That was just 2 to 3 weeks. They are involved, and sometimes you have copies, sometimes you don't. Like that's just kind of how web goes. You try to wrap a process around it, and you know every client, every project's just a little bit different. So you got to be elastic in some of the ways you work. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we try not to sort of make it too long or give too many options, or I don't know. I feel like whenever you have a lot of time at hand, you'll just keep making, especially when that's the fun part for designers, like exploring different visual directions. It's basically the best part of the process, in my opinion. And then I would do it every day too. But it has to have a limit to it. Yeah. Sorry?
Do you guys do wireframes as well during that time in the process?
That would be before we start the design. So the discovery workshop would happen before that, and then the wireframes would happen before that as well. Sometimes not, if they already have the wireframes. So again, it depends. I feel like it depends whether they have wireframes or not.
All right, now we're moving over to you, Jura. Balls in your court now to explain everything, and then we'll ask you 50,000 questions.
I don't know if I probably didn't answer some of your questions, but if you have them.
Shoot. Okay, so development process. I guess that's a little bit kind of a bigger thing for us, as you mentioned, because like we're mostly dev focused, and like design. I mean, it's an important part of the company, definitely, but like it's a smaller team. And sometimes it feels like we try to focus a lot on improving the development process. And right now, Kristina is also working a lot on improving the design process as well. So I guess how everything begins is we get the style guide and the Figma file from our design team, and then we start working on the actual project. First of all, you have like the project setups where you actually discover all the fonts, upload all of the fonts, do that stuff, and then you start setting up the style guide. So essentially, how you see it right now in Figma, we have like that identical page in Webflow, and then you just go like step by step, fill in, okay, H1, H2, H3, and then all of the div blocks, the specific text and stuff like that. So you try to cover as much as possible, and then we try to build globally from the get-go. So creating like buttons as symbols, and creating universal classes for like text colors, background colors, and stuff like that. And then once you jump into the actual development, stuff goes a lot faster and easier once you do the actual preparation. But the preparation period kind of lasts a day or two, depending on how big the Figma file is, how big the style guide is, and it's kind of boring, but it's an important part, I guess, of the process. So you try to focus as much as possible to do it. And then we actually start the development of the pages. We always try to begin with the home page, because it's kind of the most difficult page, I assume, on the website, and it probably has the most difficult components that you're going to potentially use somewhere else later, and then you just have the option to use that component that you already developed. So it also actually helps a lot and makes the process go a lot faster again. And then it's kind of the whole building out of the pages. Again, it depends on the project, I guess. Sometimes it goes quicker, sometimes it goes slower, depending on how big the design is, how complicated the sections are. So sometimes it takes me, just to build the homepage, it takes me a week, but it has a lot of custom code components and a lot of custom things and features that happen on the homepage. And sometimes it takes me a bit. So there's no kind of rules to that, I guess. And it already, as I mentioned, depends a lot on the clients, how needy are the clients, how big expectations they have of us. Sometimes it happens that, for example, clients don't want to have animations on the website at all. So they just like want to have clean pages, and I don't know why. And then it's a lot faster to do it like that, I guess, because we leave animations always for the end. Because once we have the actual content, the images, everything built out, then we try to pretty up the website and make it pop. So that's that as well. And then after like finishing development, I guess there's a lot of
QA.
Yeah, but before like QA, there's a lot of collaboration between like the designer and the developer. So even though there are like around 15 developers in a company right now, mostly each of us has their own project to do. So it's not like kind of, okay, the three of us as a team do this project, because I mean, as you know, Yankee, the Webflow doesn't have like multiple people option to work at the same time. Right now they're experimenting with something, but it's still not available. And then like it doesn't work that way as general like coding does. So everybody is kind of a handler for their own project. And I guess like a cool thing with us is, which I didn't expect at all when I started working here, is from day one, you're included in the process. So you communicate with clients, you request stuff from clients, you have meetings with them, you defend the design and defend the development that you do, and like it's a really hands-on process. And instead of some companies having it like, okay, you have like a project manager, he's gonna do everything client-wise, you just do the work, like the grunt work. And it's like a bit different, and I like that it's like that, because it's also fun, because you get to meet all of the people that you work with, and you kind of have a feel of the impact that you're making with all of the websites that you're actually building. And yeah, and after all of that, like collaboration process happens, then the worst part, the QA, where we have like an internal QA team that goes through the whole website from top to bottom, tries to break it as much as possible, and then the painful process of fixing all of the bugs that happen, and trying to make it essentially pixel perfect, I guess. And then we have client feedback, where we actually send all of the pages. I mean, for us, as we finish one page, we send it to the client. So in a deal situation, let's say I build a homepage, the homepage goes through QA, and then we send the homepage for feedback before we start developing any other page, because that initial feedback tells us, okay, we should proceed in this matter, or we should do it in a bit different way. We are on a good track, we're on a bad track. So it's bad practice to essentially build out the whole website and then tell the client, okay, the website is done, you can take a look, because he'll probably have a lot of changes happen, which is going to be painful to make globally. And yeah, after like the client feedback, we try to implement all of that. Sometimes they try to add new different things, or it happens, for example, they see it like in a live in action, because even though clients see Figma files and designs, sometimes they can't visualize the actual animations or graphics, how they're going to behave on mobile phone, how are going to they feel on the device. And then once they do, they want to make some changes, and that happens almost every time. There's no exception to that, definitely. And then it's kind of that part where you play around with adjusting so that the client likes it best, and that's pretty much it. Then it's like the go live process. That process is kind of more like project settings wise, where you check up all of the redirect links, make sure like SEO data, meta descriptions is all up to date. Where you, if they, for example, have an old website and they have a lot of blogs, you like try to mass upload blogs into Webflow, which never works.
Right.
You spend like a week in Google Sheets, spreadsheets everywhere on the screen, trying to copy paste, and stuff like that. So I guess it kind of is fun, but sometimes it can be a lot difficult. But it's interesting, I guess. And like I kind of assume like the main feature for me, since I started working with Flow Ninja, is because it's a one-person job. You essentially have an opportunity to work on a lot of different projects. And I mean, I like to think that we work fast-paced in a sense. We turn around clients pretty quickly. I mean, we're working on having like mostly enterprise clients, which are long-term projects. But before, when we were a smaller company, we had a lot of smaller projects, like a few pages or like up to 10 pages sites. And like those projects you finish within a month. And then you have an opportunity to work on a lot of different projects, a lot of different clients, and you're not like stuck on one website for a year, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to learn a lot of different stuff on the way. And yeah, that's pretty much from start to finish in the process.
Yeah.
Well, I have 100 questions, but that's just because like I live in Webflow all day, like you. But before I keep talking, I was just gonna see if Alex or Benten had questions before I ask a bunch of questions.
I have 2 questions actually.
I think I'm good. I think we lost Benten, actually, fortunately.
Oh, he looks like he's still in the YouTube stream, but we lost him.
He is, yeah. I think he's off the call though. But
well, cheers to Benten. I hope he comes back. I don't know. Okay, well, I'll ask you a question then. So when you're building this, so like for example, you said you guys add motion a lot of times. And that is always like, to me, like that's how it always made sense to do things. Like if you were just going to, especially like some of the, I don't want to call it like simpler motion, but things like a scroll interaction as you scroll, like this
Yeah.
this image is going to move in a container. Like there's more simplistic things like that where it works, but what about like more complex animations that I'll just give you one. Well, actually, I don't know what we're allowed to share, so I won't do that. But like, there's one that like we had to split up a graphic into, I think, 14 different layers to do the animation we wanted, and so that made things a lot more complicated than just like, hey, here's the Figma file. Like, I had to work with Alex and Benten and the designers on it to get that file set up correctly. And so like, it's just like, where does thinking about motion come in? Because a lot of times it is like one of the last things, because you just go Figma to Webflow. But like where we're trying right now to like really think about motion in the beginning of it, like as they create each section, like what can we design, like let's center this, because as you scroll, we want it to get as big as the screen, and it would be weird if it starts on the left side and gets as big as like thinking through it like that. So I was just curious, like if motion ever comes in earlier, if you guys have a wild idea. I think that's probably my first question.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to answer. Essentially, I guess again the main thing is a lot of depends on project to project. So, for example, even like the bigger enterprise companies, when we try to like wow them and do the actual motion before they even see all of the pages, and like add amazing reveals for images, videos, like pop-ups and stuff like that, and they just see it and they're like, please remove all of this, we don't want any motion on the website. And then you're like, just damn, a week of work just went down the toilet. So that happens. But also we have projects, essentially motion, when it starts earlier, it always begins from the design team, especially since we have like a project right now that we're working on that is a very, not motion heavy, but it has a lot of interesting like interactions, micro interactions, lottie animations and stuff like that. And all of that essentially started in the design because the clients requested it from the start. And then they always had in mind, okay, we need to build this for specific interactions or specific layouts. And then once they actually hand off the files, for example, me and the designer have a sync meeting, and then he walks me through, okay, the client imagined this to happen like this. Is it this possible? Is it not possible? Do we need to update design, change something, or improve something? And most of the time, we have an idea at the beginning, but that idea goes through so much rounds of feedback and so much changes that by the end, it's probably something so different that it never had any connection at the beginning. So again, it depends a lot. But the easier kind of projects, the motion comes in the end, because like the motion is, I think about it as a playtime for the developer. So he jumps in and he says, okay, how can I make this amazing? And then he just starts playing around like with scroll effects and like scroll into objects, something specific hover animations and stuff like that. And then what happens.
And I can kind of see what you're sharing, Kika, in your Figma file, with just kind of like breaking that out and having those assets probably just extracted and being singular versus, hey, here's what it's all looking like together.
Yeah, we are not sharing on the stream. I just saw the stream. Okay,
I just switched it.
Awesome. Okay,
awesome. There we go.
So basically for complex animation, and then we need to separate the two. So when we are doing Lottie, that's separate. We have the animator that does the Lottie animation, if that's something that's not going to be done in Webflow. And then if we want to do something that's going to be done in Webflow, we try to basically make a storyboard of sorts to just even for presenting to the client the idea we have, so they can understand. Sometimes do a Figma prototype, and then the most important thing around that, the specific animation, even if it's a complex one, then is the collaboration between a designer and the developer. So we try to do like a storyboard, like this will happen and this will happen and this will happen. But then the specific easings and everything, the developer and designer sync, look at it together, and then make it pop. Basically, yeah, finish the animation in Webflow. But we do propose them in terms of when we think about the animations. We try to think about them as early as possible, and then that's basically sort of even when mood boarding and starting the art direction, and then communicating with the client, we can sense whether they'll be big on animations or they'll be very like not interested in those. So by the time we know, we start designing those. Like, so some pages are like, it also happens that they want like a super fun animated scrolling into everything coming from every side for the
Right.
homepage, and then that's just for the homepage, and then the other pages, they're like very more, yeah, they're basically a bit basic in terms of like they tone down the illustration, the animation on those ones, especially if they're like very copy heavy, or they're like for the explanation of something.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Are you
hopefully
guys
we
using?
answered. Yep.
Yeah, no, yeah, you did, and I mean, I think the answer is like a lot of things. Like it just kind of depends. It's like when we start doing motion, depends on the client, depends on the need of the project, just all of those different things. I was just gonna quickly ask: are you guys using any type of like library, like motion libraries, like maybe like some GSAP, or I don't know. There's plenty of different things out there, but I know GSAP's like hot in the Webflow community still. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna mention just before you asked the question. Like recently, we had a project where our client wanted essentially the whole website to change color depending on the section that they're scrolling in right now, and like the whole body changes, the every text element, the navigation, and stuff like that. And I was the developer on the project. I initially tried to do it like with Webflow scrolling animation, but it was super difficult and it was not like working in the best possible way. And at that point, I kind of discovered the GSAP and was like, this kind of looks cool. Let's see. And then my mind was like, to all the opportunity that GSAP allowed us. And then, like with GSAP, it was super easy to implement all of those like interactions and triggers. And it's an awesome tool, generally like for motion that we use. And I guess like the most consistent principle is not kind of a library, but we use like a basic JS code and try to, when animation is super complicated, we don't try to do it like in Webflow because it kind of gets difficult to manage and it has some kind of limitations. Then we use kind of JS or custom CSS or stuff like that to create it with like specific event handlers and stuff like that. So it kind of has a better feel, I guess. That's what we found out through the years of doing stuff. And it's a lot more fun.
Well, cool. I'm just curious. I'm going to ask a question from. It looks like somebody asked in the comments. How do you handle clients' brand assets? How do you handle brand guidelines? Not sure if they mean like, I'm guessing like from the start, from design. But if they already have pre-existing brand guidelines, like how do you guys work with that or take that on and get the process going with that?
Yeah. So basically, mostly clients come to us when they rebrand. So they have their old brand, they rebrand, and then they come to us for the new website, obviously. And then they provide us with we ask a lot of questions, like not only the visual part, but what is their brand, what problem are they solving. Like there's like a huge list of questions just to get to know and why they rebranded in the first place. And then they provide us with their brand guidelines, their brand book, and that's when we basically incorporated in the art directions. So that's when I say they sometimes want us to combine things, is like we take their brand and we always ask whether how open they are to us expanding upon it on the web. So brand guidelines for the printed materials or socials is one thing, and then how much are they willing to expand on the web experience? So are they like, and it happens sometimes we take the brand that stick to like the core but expand on like assets and everything else basically. And then sometimes we really stick to the brand guidelines to like this specific italic weight of this font is for that purpose, and then we just follow their brand guidelines if they are set up properly. And then for some projects, if they're like a new company, they come with sometimes or if they're like a smaller company with sort of I'd say smaller brand guidelines, but sometimes it's just the logo, and then we can do whatever we want. That's basically where we act almost as a branding agency, but not completely, since we are only doing it for the web.
We have a logo. Make us a website that's just like a logo.
yeah, that happens. And honestly, it's not as bad as someone would think, because even within the logo and two like primary colors, you can explore so much and improve upon it. So yeah, I think some of my favorite projects were like started with like, here's who we are in like written details, and the visuals we have is just like the logo and two colors. And then what happens afterwards is that they like what we do with the site so much that they want us to, or basically make some sort of guidelines on how they should translate their identity to other mediums.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I hope that answers the question for me, but hopefully it did for the person that asked it in the chat there. I'm gonna unless Alex, if you have anything that you wanted to ask along brand guidelines and design, I was gonna switch gears up a little bit and ask something a little different that I've been.
I mentioned too. It looks like we lost Benten, but no one else did. So the rest of the people watching can hear Benten, and we cannot, unfortunately. So
shoot! So we don't know.
It's a weird little in between. So sorry, Benten, but we'll have to kind of close things up in a few minutes here. No real questions. Yeah, that sounds good about the brand. I don't know if we need to get into how Unfold does it at all, but that was cool to hear how Flow Ninja does it.
I think that's a part two. I don't know if we can. How are we going to answer all the questions?
There's not enough time.
There's not enough time. I can quickly go through like the dev handoff process. Just kidding. Maybe we can just talk about it another time. But I was curious around like your design process, since you do have like the branding part. So you have your in-house branding team, and in my imagination, it must be like a lot easier having the whole brand handed off to the web team, and then the web team goes on from there. So I was wondering if someone can answer that question for me.
Alex, I think you're on mute for a second, but that would be you.
I'm so sorry. And I was looking at comments. I'm a little bit. Can you give me a 2-second recap of that question?
Should I repeat? Or?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I was just looking at comments on our back end here. So.
It's okay. So basically, having an in-house branding team and the collaboration with so basically clients come to you for like the full service from the branding, and then everything else happens. Is that correct?
Yeah, it depends on the client, but that is a pretty common thing that the brand team will take it and kind of do their stuff for a couple of weeks, and then we'll have a good handoff meeting and stuff. And so we get a lot of pre-made assets and direction from the brand team specifically. There's a couple clients who come in who don't want anything changed at all, and we just kind of have to work with that and try to make best we can with their existing brand. But the really fun projects are when the brand team actually has that time to like develop their own systems, and they actually even do their own website mock-ups. They say they aren't very good, but they're wonderful. They're always really wonderful. And so that helps us out quite a bit to have that good starting spot to go from there. So this kind of depends on the client. And then other times they don't want anything touched. And it's like, we're trying to give them kind of, tips and hints and things to make things better visually, but I think they want to keep it within the same kind of brand ecosystem. So it depends on the client for the most part.
Yeah, this should be called tea time with it depends. It depends. But it really does. Yeah, so that's why sort of processes within all of this I feel like very important, so we don't lose track of like what comes first and what comes second and who's responsible for what, but the process is sort of never streamlined. So I have another question for you guys. Is like how much of the, like, since we don't have time for you to walk us through the whole process, how much of the process that you have set in place is actually like happens, like does the every step of the process happens, or is there like backs and forths depending on the client?
I would say we stick to a pretty normal process that doesn't change too much, and I think that's just a testament to how well like it's been planned out and kind of modified. I'd say we tweak things based on the client, but we don't necessarily. There's been a couple instances where a client has come in and has maybe existing wireframes or something to start off on, and so we might kind of skip those sections. But for the most part, we do kind of go through the exact process, and we might spend more or less time on those specific sections based on their specific needs and things. So it all depends, right? But it's it's for the most part it's how prepared the client is on their end. We might be able to accelerate some of that stuff, but for the most part, we do go through discovery, wireframes, mood board, stylescapes, and then kind of design exploration and stuff as well.
Yeah. Awesome. And then how long does it take? That was like my question is mostly how long does the process take? I mean, obviously it depends on how big is the website, but for example, I sort of went through the Figma you shared for the website that's like 20 pages big. How long does the process of like one page last, and like how long does it last generally?
Question. We don't get a lot of 20-page websites. We've had a couple, and those are kind of probably 3 to 4 month long projects. It just sort of depends. But the average length I'd say is we have a homepage plus maybe 2 or 3 other pages. And so in terms of timeline, we're pretty quick. You guys were talking about spending 2 to 3 weeks potentially on kind of mood boards and setting the style and stuff. We do a lot of that stuff within the first week or so. And so we do kind of initial discovery calls. Most of the time before the web team gets things, there's a whole back-end team that's doing strategy and brand discovery and all that. All of our creative directors meet with the team, Peter, and whoever else are talking to the client. So we have so much stuff ready to go before the web designers actually start doing pixel pushing, as well as the brand design teams as well. So there might be 6 weeks of work up to the point that we get the handoff. But in terms of our actual work, we go from wireframes or maybe 2 days, 2 to 3 days if it's really complex for a couple of pages. Stylescapes about the same, maybe 1 or 2 days. We're pretty quick. I don't know if you want to follow me in the file, but our stylescapes, we do a little bit of customization. And so we, for the most part, we find kind of like things from the web. This is a kind of interesting example because a lot of this stuff was already developed by the brand team here with the SafePal. But we do a couple short like hero explorations for the specific styles. And so we get into that a little bit where we're doing custom applications for what the website might look like, but it's only the hero section. So we're not having to do a full page like you guys mentioned doing. So stylescapes might take 2 to 3 days. And then we get into the actual design exploration for a homepage. I'd say a homepage takes anywhere from a week to 2.5 weeks. Just sort of depends on the complexity and everything. And then from there, it kind of gets quicker once they have the homepage, which we spend the most amount of time on. Once that's figured out, the other pages kind of go a little bit quicker for the most part. It just depends on the complexity again. So I don't know, maybe an average like 4-page site is 5 to 6 weeks, but it also depends. So
yeah, it always depends. Yeah, I feel like for the homepage, it's basically the same for us. Homepage is always taking up the biggest sort of chunk of the time, especially when trying to that's when the styles are sort of when you decide on like how big the H1 is going to be or how big the H2 is going to be. So I guess it gets easier once the homepage is designed.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cool.
So I have actually 2 questions if there's time. I don't know.
I mean, let's do it. Why not? Let's just we'll do those last 2 questions and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I guess the biggest question is, I mean, I know how it is to work with a lot of different developers and a big team, but how it is for you, for example, since you're like a one-man show in a world of designers. So how do you handle it? And the first thing is, what do you do when you encounter a problem that you don't know how to solve at a moment? So do you have like a person that you can turn to? Because, for example, in my case, if I can't handle something or I don't know how to solve something, like I need an idea, I can always talk to a colleague or somebody who's more experienced or somebody who looks at things in a different way. And then I'm wondering, how do you overcome those obstacles? And the second thing is, does it ever happen, for example, once you receive like design files for development, and you think to yourself, man, did they ruin my life right now? Or do you like kind of, oh my God, I'm super excited to build this page. Let's do it. Let's blow this up. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll answer them both. Well, the first thing is that Alex and Benten, and they do ruin my life a lot. Like, but part of it is because I like to stay out of I try to stay out of their process of design. Like, unless they have a specific question of like, hey, we're thinking about this, it's kind of crazy. Just do my best to stay out of their way so that they're not, and this is something that when I used to design more, I would design for Webflow where like I know what their sliders can do. I know what's easy to do in Webflow. So I was designing for Webflow's capabilities and I hated that. So I try to stay out of the way of Alex and Benten and let them be like, just do whatever they want. And then it's my problem to make it come to life, because you can do it in Figma. You should be able to do it in Webflow. It may just not be the easiest, but that way we don't get sites that look a lot of the same. And so that's why a lot of times when things get handed off, I'm just like, oh boy, this is fun. But that's kind of a testament to them. They're just really good. I think they're very, very creative, good designers. And so yeah, that's that. And then your second question, or actually this was your first question, but the other question was, if I run into problems, who do I bounce ideas off of? And yeah, I mean, I definitely have, we do have, I said there's another developer internally at Unfold, but he doesn't do Webflow. It's you know, a lot of Web3 stuff, things like that. So if I have questions, I can ask him, and he's been super helpful. His name's Sergey. And, but outside of that, there's a couple communities, like I'm part of Flow Party. I'm in different Slack channels, like State of Flow, things like that. So there's plenty of people that I've, you know, met just going to different events, going to the Webflow conference that I've met that are very helpful. I've found that the Webflow community is really, really helpful if you are sincere about your questions, and you are also helping people too. So those are my kind of two things. And now that I've met you, Jura, I'm probably just gonna hit you up. So I'll wait for
sure. Always.
So hopefully that answered the question. I since we're already over time, I'm gonna real quick hit you guys both with 2 rapid fire questions. Just like one answer questions, or one word answers. I'm sorry. Okay. So actually, I'll ask all 3 of you guys. Might as well. Why not? Okay. So what is your favorite project that you've worked on? Like, what's the URL so people can go look at it? And number 2 is, I'll just say, let's just actually, I'm just gonna leave this one for you, Kika. Where do you guys feel like the best place to find leads is right now? So those are the questions. Just rapid fire. I'm gonna start with you, Alex. What's your favorite project you ever worked on?
Favorite project, I'd say Suborbital. It was a really fun project. Their current site has some of the stuff that we actually worked on, but not all of it. So I'd say the best place to look is Dribbble. We're going to keep posting shots on that. But that was a really fun site where we did all kinds of really complex 3D isometric illustrations, and it was just a fun process with the client. But yeah, their existing site has a small sample of those illustrations and stuff. It's probably my favorite site, though.
Okay,
yeah, that's all stupid.
Thank you for the info. So for me, I think it's going to be revelator.com. So it was also a really fun website to build, and it was kind of a first global usability website that I built. So technically, the whole website is component driven. You can build a whole new page from scratch just by using symbols. So it was really, really fun and out of the box to do it.
That's revelator.com, REVELATOR. I'm going to drop it in the chat. Just want to make sure I had the right one. Yeah, that's really cool. That looks nice. If I did that, I'd be proud of that one too. Okay, Kika, what do you think the best place to get
so
leads
hard.
Okay,
I don't have to answer
No, you got to answer both of them. You're in the hot.
I'd say Superglue, so superglue.io. And then for the, what was the other question?
About leads, I think.
Where are you guys finding the most, like, where's the best place for you guys to find leads right now?
Leads as in new clients.
Yeah, finding new clients. I know it's always going to be like,
I don't know how to answer that question because they come to us most of the time. So we have it like via Zapier. Once someone fills in the form on our website, it just pops up into our Slack. So I don't know, in my opinion, Slack, but it's not. Basically, the clients come to us, and how we achieve that is through awesome marketing campaigns, and then attending and sponsoring conferences, being the part of the community, etc., and other clients. So there's not like one word answer. Sorry, you said one word. So there is not
nobody followed that rule. I'm not even going to follow that rule.
Yeah.
Well, that is cool. Hopefully people will go visit those sites. My favorite that I've ever done is mightyapp.com. It was actually one of my first projects I ever did. And I'll drop that in the chat here too, so people can check it out when they come back and watch this. But we are already over time, and we lost Benten, so I guess we got to wrap this thing up. One quick thing is just that this is our last tea time stream for Unfold before the holidays. So after the new year, we'll be picking it back up again. But just huge thank you to Jura and Kika for joining us today. And I appreciate you guys coming on, taking time. I know it's like 9 p.m. I think in Serbia. Is that right?
Yeah. And Serbia is so you guys against Switzerland in the
World Cup
soccer.
Oh my gosh! Has it already started?
Yeah, we're like missing the game
right now.
Okay. It's 2-2. Oh no!
I blame Jura for bringing up those other questions. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We need a part 2.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Go check out Flow Ninja. It's flow.ninja. Appreciate you guys. And that is the end of the stream. Have a good one.
Thanks everyone.
So
bye.
Bye, guys.
See you.